Oh yeah.
Oh, we're in trouble. Hey, listen.
Like if you're playing something that's got like, for example, like you're playing a G major bar chord, then you're playing C minor.
Yep.
You know that you've got that note in between. So you can go. I don't know. That's just something I think of the different notes that are in the next chord.
All right, that's a really good start.
Yeah.
But I think you could probably make that even more melodic with
Yeah.
with more focus. I mean, for example, here's a jazz play technique, and I tend to think that this stuff doesn't give you the best sounding melodies, but it does. It does give you a nice scaffold to work out, something systematic. So I'm just trying to mark the roll, and I can't tell you how difficult it is to do that and talk at the same time.
Yeah, that's
Right. So here's a jazz play technique. If you've got a chord progression, target thirds and sevenths. So if you take you know, 1 6 2 5, right, and you play the thirds of all of those,
yeah.
right, that becomes kind of the scaffold of your melody, and it's your job then to kind of connect those dots. Right?
Yeah.
And like, I don't necessarily think that that approach by itself gives you the best melodies possible, but it is a really good approach to start from somewhere, right? Like, people say play on chord tones, and you're like, okay, well, I just choose any one of these notes. And it doesn't quite work like that. Like, you can definitely get some non sequiturs
Yeah.
inside of just playing anything inside a chord tone. Yeah, like probably the simplest answer is to say to everyone, well, sing the line first, or if it doesn't sound like a singer would do that, doesn't really count.
Yeah.
At least for a while, like if you're trying to break into things that are more melodic. So targeting thirds, targeting sevenths, targeting any of them. But another one, the one that we talked about in the last lesson, which you wouldn't have seen because I haven't uploaded that yet, is did you ever look at the lesson material for the last lesson? How about you, Lily? Did you?
I'd agree.
I'll just have a look at what that was. I can't actually remember.
So the last one was chord progressions.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just a list of chord progressions that I think you need to know and memorize. And I don't just mean memorize as in you remember the numbers, but memory by sound, like that you can start identifying these things. And one of the cool ones in that is the descending minor line cliche. The minor line cliche, you might imagine it applied to a blues. If you apply it to a blues, actually, it kind of becomes a jazz standard. Which is, in a blues, we've got the one minor chord for ages. And eventually, we head ourselves down to the 4 chord, right? And it's this idea that, like, if we've got this one static chord that's going to sit there for ages, we probably want to have some kind of interest involved in that. So they start a chromatic line from the root of C. So you can see from here, C, B, B flat, A flat, G sharp. All right, and that's the third of F. So it's like we've got this big arrow pointing towards where we're going. And then from F, we usually come back up to some kind of C minor chord, which then gets us to G again. So we've done this chromatic line in the chord progression. Now, a really cool exercise, and if you missed last week, and I think you both did, then a really cool exercise to do is to take that line as the structure for your solo. You know, minor blues, so it always sounds cool. But if we take that line as the starting point of all of our ideas, and then say apply some pentatonic stuff or blues box stuff, you know. Right? That line serves as a great deal of structure. And you find it all over the neck. So that illustrates an interesting point about certain chord progressions. Some chord progressions have these really distinctive sounds in them. And that doesn't have to be something as consistent as this chromatic descend. That's a great one to start with because it's really easy to visualize where all your notes are. But it can be other things too, like... All right, to me I hear... And then the major 7 at the end, right? 2, 5, 1, right? So thinking about that 9 jumps out at me. I like the 5. Nice interval. Then we hit this flat 9, and as soon as I hear that da, I think it sounds like fantastic voice leading on Thursday. Sorry, I've just got a student here who's like, you sent me the wrong link. The strange thing is he got sent the same link as you guys, and he says that he can't log in. Right, so just let me finish this point, and then I'll send him the text. I'll just resend him the email. So, of this B minor 9, right, you can get a whole bunch of different melodies out of those set of notes, from the interesting notes in those chords, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the tactics you can use. I really need to restring this guitar. The strings are totally dead. So look for interesting notes. Try to just, out of a chord progression, choose one note from each chord that assembles to the framework of a melody that you kind of like, and use your improvisations to expand out from there. Is a really cool way of doing it. All right, can you guys open up while I just send this email again? Can you guys open up this week's sheet thing?
Yeah.
It's a sight reading. Well, it's a reading exercise. Let's not call it sight reading. Everyone will freak out for a second if we have sight reading in the name. And I kind of wouldn't expect you guys to be sight readers anytime soon. Guitar is a notoriously difficult instrument to get particularly competent at sight reading with. The one thing I do think that everyone should kind of do is support their reading with a lot of this information that we're talking about. A lot of things like your triads, your scales. You know, if you look at a song and you go, oh, it's in the key of B flat, then you should kind of impose the B flat scale on top of the whole thing. You go, oh, B flat, so I know what all my notes are going to be. So unless it has an accidental against it, then I know what my options for next notes are. Then you can look at the music and see, is it scale-wise movement? Is it sorry, I was just saying anymore. Scale-wise music movement, is it stepwise movement? You know, you can kind of use those to give you clues, and it makes the reading a lot easier. I seriously wish I had done that more when I was starting out. Nobody really pointed out to me that could be done, and it's kind of one of those obvious things that probably should have occurred to me, but I missed it. Oh, come on, now my Internet Explorer is freaking out. Okay, so first thing to do with any sheet of music that gets put in front of you. So you've got the little Yeah, so you got the TIFF image in front of you. First thing to do is to just look at it and try to figure out some of the ideas of what's going on here. So can anyone tell me anything about what this looks like?
It looks like a bunch of C inversions, and then is it passing notes or neighboring notes?
Well, can you elaborate on it?
Uh, Not really.
Okay. What we have here is an exercise that's worth singing. It builds into a nice, fun improvisation exercise. What we're doing is moving the outer and inner voices along the scale. You might notice that the top line of, say, the first example is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So if you ignore the harmony clusters, I mean. Can we all see that?
Yep.
Yep. Cool. Next thing to do is take a look at them and think about the inversions we're seeing, right? Support your reading with this inversion knowledge. So what's the first inversion on the page? You got a guess, Lily? Does anyone remember how to do the like really quickly find out inversions? Hey,
Is
Alex,
it first inversion?
Yeah, how did you do it?
Yeah. I just looked at the notes of what was going up, and then because it's C, E, G, but it's in the order E, G, C, I think. Yeah.
Right, okay, so that's one way of doing it. I think that's a particularly slow way of doing it, especially in an exam when you're under pressure.
Yeah.
See how there's two notes and there's one note off by itself? That's the picture of first inversion. If it was root inversion, it'd be three notes all in a row. If it's second inversion, it's one note down the bottom and two notes off by themselves. All right? And they're just little snapshots of pictures that you should memorize. It makes reading them so much easier rather than having to sort through the individual notes of everything. So much about reading efficiently has absolutely nothing to do with actually recognizing what the notes are. You know, people see a shape on music. So when, you know, an experienced reader looks at that, they go, it's first inversion rooted on E. So there you go, there's an E. Or it could be that first inversion rooted on E. The guitar is a little confusing this way. There's like at least 3 different places we could play that. Which is one of the reasons why it's very hard to read for. What we have been doing is focusing exclusively on the DGB strings for right now, so that's what we're going to read them on. So first off, you need to read just the top line. All right, top line is a C major scale, starting with C on the first fret. So read that through. Make sure you can finger it. You have a quick go at reading it, and then I'll play it for you. Hey, Alex, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, stand by.
Yeah. I don't. Do you have the sheet for this week? It's the lesson 5. It's an image. I'm not sure if you ended up getting it.
Let me double check for you. Just give me a sec there.
I was just going to resend it to you.
Khan and Chapman. Just cat nonsense. You get it.
Yeah, trust me, I get it. Upchuck last night and a whole bunch of crap, you know. All right, so I just sent it to you again, Alex. So like, if you don't have it, it should arrive in your inbox soon. So, playing C major scale. Here's an interesting note about playing things on one string. One string is really interesting. It has the most kind of flexible fingerings out of everything. What you shouldn't do is this. You know, shouldn't's a tough word. There are reasons to do that, and like it'll kind of do an implied bliss between each of these notes. But what you should do is think about different ways of fingering it, like fingering in sets of 2. Right, fingering in sets of 3. Maybe in 4s. Right, combinations of the above. Using different fingering groups. Is there any way you can rely on, say, only using 2 particular fingers? Quite often you could space things out so that you only use these 2 fingers. And that way it's always a tone spacing. And you should work on these as a kind of a game you play with yourself. Like, oh, today I'm going to practice just going up and down this one string, but I'm going to practice it in this set of fingerings, right? Not totally relevant to what we're going to do today, because probably what we're going to do today is play an inversion and see if we can finger the next note while we're holding that inversion. Alrighty, so you have probably recognized that all of the inversions in this are C. Probably a dead giveaway by the fact there's a big 1 over this set of 3 exercises. And the point of this exercise, other than getting some reading practice, is actually to sing the line. All right, it's going to be super easy for you on the top. Right? Doesn't have to sound good. That's not the aim. But when we get to the other lines, the middle line and the bottom line, you're probably going to find it difficult. Or when you play this chord, the middle note, what does that sound like? Can someone hum me that middle note from this chord? Don't play it on your guitar first. No cheating. I saw you immediately look down that neck, Lily. The whole idea is to do it by sound. Now, if you're freezing right now on this thing, it's exactly what this exercise is good for, is making you focus in on different voice movement, right? Which is going to be key. Everyone's pretty good at melodic voice movement because we're very used to listening to singers, but listening for the low and middle parts is harder. Da, 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 right? And then again with the lower voice. The other thing this exercise does is it points out which notes in a scale get harmonized with the 1, 4, and 5 chord. All right, so anything that has a 1 chord on it is really capable of being harmonized with the 1 chord with strict triad tones, etc. Like obviously you can harmonize a 1 chord like this. It's just no longer a vanilla 1 chord. It's an add 9, which can be a fun way of playing this exercise too. So what we're doing is playing essentially a vanilla C chord with then an extension, and then a vanilla C chord with an extension. Okay, so have a stab. I'd like to hear all of you play it. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to check out, say the first. Well, let's just start with the first exercise and see what you can do. So, quick break. I might catch up with Alex and see if he's on the same page as everyone. So you guys break off, play that first exercise a couple of times, mute your mics, sing that top line. Preferably, if you can just play the chord and then sing the top note without having to isolate it, right? But after you've got it, you should be able to follow up the scale pretty easily. All right, break. You guys go to work. Alex, mate, how you doing?
How the hell are you doing, mate?
Yeah, it could be sharper.
Could be sharper.
Sharper.
What?
It's been a cat issues, man. Like.
Oh, you get it too?
Oh yeah. Like.
Yeah, because like, so
I
my.
had 4 o'clock shark feeding, which is pretty normal.
Oh yeah.
But on top of that, there's also like a mess in the tray and vomit on the floor. It's like, this is not what I want to deal with at 4 in the morning.
Exactly, but they're cute, so they get away with everything.
Yeah, and like, I happen to love these 3. They're particularly.
You got 3?
great.
Yeah, we just added 3. So my
Hold on,
youngest
you just
one.
added 3.
No, I added 2. My God. 2
Right,
1,
right.
which equals 3. So I had two originally, and my one that would glare at me when I put distortion on passed away a couple
Oh, that's
couple weeks ago, so that sucked.
That's really rough.
Yeah, but we got these two adorable fucking kittens, and
Oh, and they're
they
keeping
are
so-
just carnage. It is
Yeah,
just a shit show. One of
Yeah,
them just can't go
kittens-
outside because he just has to see, like, jump over the fence and go everywhere. And the other one is outside somewhere, but Mum didn't tell me, so I've got to go find him after this lesson. But he's fine. He'll be fine. He's just a wanderer, but he's
Yeah,
like super
yeah.
chill at the
Yeah,
same time.
Kittens have like a massive ball of energy until they just like fall over.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the fall over is the best bit.
Yeah, just watch them like start drooping. And...
Now, listen, I had a couple issues. First thing,
Excellent.
pedals happened.
Alright.
So, I've been building a pedal board, and I finally finished it yesterday. So that's been taking
Get
up a lot
yourself
of
a
my.
good power supply. That's really important.
Okay, listen, I'm using a daisy
no
chain.
daisy
We're just
chain,
not going to
no.
talk about that.
No daisy chains. If you bought quality pedals on a bad power night, daisy chains can destroy every pedal on your board.
Oh, as in like a short circuit.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
or even if the power is fluctuating badly enough and it's not a particularly good power supply in and of itself, it can die from that and then short all of the pedals in the row.
Well, I mean, yeah, that would. How about I just unplug them? Listen, I'll get a power supply.
Yeah. What I would say is, people usually relegate power supplies as the uncool side of your pedal board, and apart from the fact that a power supply will make your sound so much cleaner.
Yeah, because I mean,
it is
you
totally
lose
worth it.
sound.
What am I using? The one spot, True Tone one spots.
Haven't
They're
heard of
pretty
them.
cheap. They're pretty cheap, but they are excellent. Like they're cheap as far as high end power supplies go. I think this one costs $180 or something, but it's 12.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Um,
What's it called? True Tone? True Tone one spot?
One spot, something like that.
Yeah, I got it here.
I think mine's the CS12 or something. It is worth it. It is totally worth it. And it's worth it just for the peace of mind of knowing that your audio will be clean and not have any hum or buzz.
Ooh, they've taken. I think they've taken yours off the market now. But as in, I don't know why.
They probably replaced it with a better model. Mine was sport.
Oh no, yours is just $369. There we go.
Yeah, I got that way cheaper when I got mine. Depends
Anyway.
on how many outputs you need and stuff. It's definitely worth saving for, definitely worth getting. And look, I was a guy that used to run with, I had a pedal board for a while that needed 4 or 5 individual power packs.
You were one of those
So-
pedal people.
Well, I had a couple of pedals that if I ran them in a daisy chain, you just get hum. And
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Single coils. I'm not doing anything to increase my hum, right? Like
That's a good point. I've got P90s, so
same deal. Single
on the other.
coils.
No, I'm saying that's it amplifies it. I swear. With
Oh yeah,
60
they're-
cycle
they're
hum.
larger. Yeah. Anyway, so got yourself some cool pedals.
But yeah, so got some pedals. Was working on that for quite a bit. And I was playing with different tunings. The biggest issue I was having though with what we went through, I couldn't fucking remember the shapes. And I know that I'm not supposed to remember them as shapes. I'm supposed to figure them out and then play them as like as in play them.
What do
Because
you mean
they're-
triad shapes?
Yeah. Just the basic.
No. You totally memorize those fuckers. Like, whoops.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I just couldn't
Um,
remember them at all.
Yeah,
like, as in,
and
after
it
a while.
relates to your other chord shapes too. It's like C shape, C shape chord, A shape, then E shape, C A E.
Whoa.
One more fret. Yeah. What's that?
But there was a bunch of other ones we had, wasn't there?
Yeah, you can turn them all minor. So this is where I think you should kind of calculate it out, so that way you're memorizing
Yeah.
where in the triad it is. Right. So this is first inversion. First inversion is third on the bottom. So if we want to make it minor, we've got to flatten that note. Just that
That's
one.
right, yeah.
So it should go 2 open 1. I don't think you've quite got that yet. So 2 open 1. Yeah. Now then it should go 1 open 1.
Yeah.
And then we come up to the second inversion. Well, Well, second inversion, so third's on top. So this
Yeah.
is the third. We've got to flatten it to make it minor. You know, like a standard
Yeah.
A minor shape bar chord. Then up to root inversion. Root inversion has third.
Every
That's the
time.
song. Da 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 da. Third's in the middle. Right.
Okay, cool.
So that's your backbone, and yeah, you need to memorize that. With the minors, I'd suggest fingering them with this fingering group. Not using your pointer finger. It's a hell of a lot easier.
Oh yeah, because once you go up, yeah, 100%.
They all connect a
Oh,
little easier.
when you play all the strings by accident, it just turns into a living hell.
So step one would be memorize just those two sets, and yeah, you got to memorize them like a scale.
Okay, cool. Because that's
and
literally
just-
all I feel like I need to do right now to get on top of things, and then I should be good with, like, to
Well,
move on.
We're going to deal with it in major today. So the other thing is, it was lesson 1 and 2 of this term.
Yeah.
Lesson 1 and 2 of this term started talking about extensions and like where to find the extensions around those notes.
Okay.
So
I think we went over some of that.
I think you were here for those lessons.
Yeah, but I also think we went over some stuff. the
Yeah,
other week.
and like it's really important to do, but you probably want to get that memorized first.
Yeah.
Right. So what you're going to need today is those 3 inversions of C. That's just
that one.
Well, it's the repeat.
Oh
of
wait,
the
it's the
first
exact
one.
same
Like,
thing.
There's only 3 of them.
Yeah,
So
good
just
point.
play that a couple times, just to refresh you.
Right. Are you playing with that with bar though?
I am, but that's probably just force of habit. Like you don't have to by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, I mean, it sounds better.
Yeah, so like,
but yeah.
I'm doing a partial bar where I do the G and B, not the D.
Yeah. Okay.
Although it'll move around depending on what's going on.
I'll just do the.
Right. Okay. And the next thing is, you want the little. You've got the music open in front of you.
Oh yeah. So you sent me.
I sent you another email with it, so you should
Perfect.
have it.
If I refresh, we should be good. It's taking its sweet time. Good old Outlook. All right, there we go.
So what it is we have the inversions and the C major scale coming up on one string.
Hold on, I'm not getting your email. Where is it? Oh wait, hold on. There it is. Okay. Lesson 5 or lesson 4? I take it it's lesson 5. Yeah.
Which is the last one before the test, actually.
Perfect.
So what this is it's got the major scale on the top string, and
Yep.
every time we have a note that lines up with a C inversion, we're playing a C inversion.
Okay. Well,
So
I was right.
one of the things to practice is to sing the note, the high note, as you're playing it.
I will shoot myself if I try to sing.
Yeah. I'm not going to make you do it on microphone, but you will need to do it as you play,
Yeah, of course.
right? So what you want to do is have a crack at reading that. One last thing before we jump back to everyone else. Cheat sheets about how to read inversions,
Yeah.
right? So if you've got 2 notes down the bottom and 1 note off by itself, it's a
Yeah,
first
it's
inversion,
usually going to be.
right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, think of it this way: 3 in a row is root.
You just
1
go.
off by itself is first. 2 off by itself is second.
Yeah.
It's like the top number numbers them for you, right? Like 1 off by itself
100%.
is the first inversion. 2 off. And so you want to practice that. Have a think about that. Try to sing that top note.
Okay. Cool.
Right. Mute your mic. Other guys, come on. How'd it go?
One of them's gone.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what happened there. Maybe she took that literally. Yeah, go away and practice that. And she genuinely just disappeared.
That would be weird.
That would be strange.
That would be very strange.
I should get on. You
Yeah, I
get
should.
piece of trash.
Yeah,
All right, how'd it go, mate?
yeah, I went all right. Like I can't play it fluently, but I know where it is. Like I can play it.
I like that you've done it on that set of strings.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was thinking more on the DGBs
Oh,
because that's really look. All I've asked you guys to do this semester has been on the DGBs.
oh yeah. I've put it down on A.
So like, obviously you should transfer it to those other places, and if you can do them on those other places, and also do them not climbing the neck, but like going like diagonally.
Yeah.
So if you go from like there to, you know, coming up.
Yeah.
That way. Okay, so the next step is going to be trying middle voice movement.
Middle voice. Yep.
Middle voice. So we want to start on this this G.
Not good with like that.
Hold on, you mean with the DGB string pairs or the
Yeah, because now I've got to like.
Look, if you wanted to continue on the other string pairs, you totally could. You just can't.
Yeah,
copy
no.
anything exactly.
If I can do it on those strings, I will, because like that means it will work for the other lessons too.
Yeah. I mean, you know, everyone's got to learn all of them. It's just that with the rate you guys were picking up the scales and this stuff, I thought just keep it to 3 string pair. And I think the DGB is very useful as a string set. Because, you know, one more string, you've got the top string, and that's the majority of your lead playing is probably going to be on the bottom 4 strings most of the time.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of treat the bottom 3 individually, as in one set.
I have to look at sheet again. That's the only issue I ever had sheet with sight reading. Like I can read each note and go, yeah, I know what chord that is. It's just knowing where it is on the guitar.
Look, it's really hard
compared to like a piano. You know where you are.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is one of the things that one offers you the highest degree of interpretation. So if you ever take up classical guitar, and you should take up classical guitar.
I did that for a little bit when I was younger. Again,
well, you should take it up as a serious musician. There are some things that is so much easier to discover and understand in classical guitar than it is in pop at all. Like just this idea of how to express a melody and how where you play that melody in different inversions, different points on your guitar neck, express very different ideas. It's quite a powerful thing to start understanding. It also starts programming what is a good melody into your ears.
Yeah.
You know? So definitely should take up classical guitar. But one of the reasons why guitarists are such bad readers is that for most of their sheet music, they actually need a whole bunch of other unique symbols for the guitar to make it clear where you're supposed to play. So there's a whole bunch of extra things like C half V or C5 in Roman numerals, and they tell you position markers. On top of that, there are little bubbles with numbers in them that tell you what string to put everything on.
Oh yeah.
And all of that helps, but I think the thing that a lot of other instruments don't get is it's like, well, imagine you have this run from C to C, but you could put it in 5 places. So now not only do I need to know this run from C to C, but I also need to be able to read where that run from C to C is and flawlessly transpose it on the fly onto somewhere else on the neck, which is what makes reading for it so difficult. So you're not alone. It gets better. What I would also say, definitely not alone. And sorry, Lily was just telling me her computer freaked out and crashed. It will get better, and it will get better the more you support the information.
Yeah.
The more you think about your scales, the more you think about your inversions, it all becomes much clearer. But at the end of the day, it's still a bit of a cryptic instrument to read for. That if you ever talk to a flautist, they never really understand why you're having such a hard time reading these things. The other thing I would say is that it kind of doesn't matter where you put those lines, provided you can get all the notes. It doesn't matter. So if you're reading a linear, just a melody, start playing it wherever you thought that note was. You know, like, don't freak out about it. Is it in the right place? It really, you only need to worry about that when the music is very complicated, or if it's specifically written for guitar. At that stage, then you do kind of need to read it and figure it out. However, I would say if you did the AMB system, one of the things they never focus on, because they demand you use their fingering so that they can grade everyone the same way, which I never did. I always refingered all of the pieces and did pretty well on my exams. Is that quite often in classical guitar sheet music, the fingerings are thoughtless. They didn't think about anything about like consistency of a voice.
Yeah.
And they'll just transfer it between two strings that are adjacent because it's convenient. You don't have to move your hand around. But there's a lot of expression that can be found in thinking about things like, well, every string on my guitar is kind of like its own voice and its own instrument. So if I keep a melodic line on one string, it shares more tonal properties with itself than it will with other strings if I cross over strings.
Yeah. One thing I noticed when I played it, I think a lot of guitarists get stuck in a certain like way to hold their hand when they're playing. You know, you're knowing that every note's going to go up like that. Whereas when you're playing classical guitar, your fingers are just, it's all over the place in a way. Eventually you get used to just playing fluidly, you know, going from finger to finger. But it's really like a really good exercise to just sort of think more about what fingers you're using.
Yeah, and fingerings are crazy important. You know,
it's really difficult.
They really, really start highlighting like they change the shape of the sound because of how convenient it is for those fingers to come down. And like obviously it is a great exercise for you to pick. Do you remember the rhythmic displacement exercise, the one where you get two fingers and you do triplets off a single string? Do you remember that one? And it's like no matter which fingers you use that with, it should sound the same. Oops, I skipped a fret.
Yeah.
And you want to keep practicing those and going, okay, do they all sound the same? And they really should. You should get them as close as possible as to just being the same kind of sound. That's a great one for highlighting one of these big guitarist problems or one of these big people problems, which is like accents happen on this guy. I was like, well, no, accents happen on this guy.
I remember
it's got nothing to do with this.
Like I've never been taught to play bass. I just sort of went, you know, if it's sort of like guitar, I can pick it up. But I had to think about rhythm and also being able to place fingers in the right spot at the right time. Because if you miss a note, then it's really crucial. And what I used to do is I'd play one note and I just switch all my fingers over it, like.
That'll.
You get faster and faster until I could get it all. That was just like a thing to warm up. It was fun.
But yeah. Okay, so moving on with the middle note voicing one.
Makes a C.
Okay, so that's still the top voice though. You want to move the middle voice.
Oh, the range, yeah. Is that notated?
Yep.
Is that the second one?
That's the second one. So the one on the right hand column.
The one that says 4, or is that?
The one that says 3. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yep. Okay, I see now. God, this amp.
I can barely hear it. What's wrong there?
Oh no, I'm just playing quietly.
Right.
But every now and then rarely it will like make a really loud noise. Because I just need to really solder stuff in the back. It's like heaps old. I found it on the side of a road. It's quite interesting.
So valve amp, or is it just an?
Yeah, it's a Marshall. One of those. And I found that
Oh right,
the
like
guys
like
going,
a DSL or
yeah,
DSP 40 or
the
something.
guy's going, no, it doesn't work. And I just realized he just needed to solder. He didn't want it anyway, so I just made it work. I was like, well, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
fine.
Do be careful operating. You're familiar with operating inside of valve amps?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like be very careful because even unplugged, they can still kill you.
yeah. I know. They're pretty wild.
But it's good fun. I do all my own mods and stuff too.
I made sure it was all safe though. Like I took it into a shop and I'm like, can you just make sure?
Well, if you're ever working on it yourself, because you said you might need to solder some stuff in the background, best way of discharging the caps is to strum plug your guitar in, strum the crap out of your guitar, and tear the power cord out.
Oh yeah.
And the sound will start fading out and become distorted as it fails, and that's you draining the caps with your guitar.
Yeah, yeah.
You can test the circuit after that, and you'll have no more than like 5 volts left in the circuit.
Yeah.
It's a really good, reliable way of doing it. That's not quite as scary as, say, taking your electrolytic caps in the amp and grounding those, which you get like a kind of a gunshot noise out of.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're pretty, and also if you do that, you have to open it while it's still live. Which is, you know, concerning from a particular angle. Like, there's definitely safe ways of doing it, and you can follow the old rule too of like you're only allowed to have one hand in the amp, the other hand's got to go in your pocket. And the whole idea behind that is that if you were, say, this hand's leaning on the chassis and this hand shorts against a high voltage cap, the charge goes through your heart.
Oh yeah.
Right. Whereas if you're just working with one hand, it's likely to go out through your foot, so it's likely to not pass your heart.
Oh yeah.
You know, so little things like that, they can really, really help. If you work on it for long enough, you'll probably get some kind of zap. I was fixing a tremolo tick in my reissue, my Deluxe Reverb reissue, which required me to have like a capacitor with a long lead soldered onto it, and that was soldered on a particular point on the board. And we're touching the cap to find where in the circuit it's going to decrease the tick, because there's like multiple points depending on the amp. And I was talking to my dad afterwards. We powered down the amp, talking, and I gestured and touched the lead to my hand. Oh man,
Yeah, I did
like someone
that.
like driving a pin through my hands. Like it's just this. My hand was like numb. And
I have a Valve stack amp, and I had. I'm fairly sure it was turned off. I can't remember. Anyway, I had like the big lead that comes out the back, and I'm holding it, and I remember it just like lightly touched my thumb or something, and like that area of my thumb just started to cramp because I'm like, oh god, yeah, the electricity's on this.
yeah. Surprisingly, even though I got shocked from the inside of the valve, the worst shock I've ever got was I bridged the terminals of an electric fence with no load on it.
Oh yeah, that.
And that felt like a nail going through my foot. Like that was crazy.
Yeah, this didn't hurt. It just felt weird. I was like, oh god.
Yeah, this is normal stuff.
Talking about operating on valve amps and getting shocked.
Ah, nice.
Alrighty, so middle voice movement. Alex, you haven't caught up to this yet. So after doing the top voice exercise, we're going to do the middle voice exercise. Right? And then the lower voice exercise, right? Now, in your own time, practicing them, singing them is really important.
So with the low one, did
Yeah.
you like add a bass note, or was that just because there was you said middle first, and then I thought the
Yeah. So middle is on the G string, right? So the thing that's doing the scale
okay,
is
that
the
makes
G
way
string.
more sense. Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm
and
with you
when
now.
we do the lower voice, we're doing.
Ah.
Yeah, see that hum? You'll get rid of some of that when you
When I switch over.
switch over to a better power supply. Okay, so got to try to practice all of those. It's the same scale in all of these exercises, by the way. So when we do this exercise with the 4 chord, we're still doing the C major scale. We're just doing it as the 4 chord. So we get. Oh,
Yeah.
my intonation on the top. The strings are
It's
so
time.
good.
It's time to get some new strings on it. Service it.
Yeah. I have a fret that's popping up here too, and I keep saying to myself, when I restring it, I'll have to deal with this fret.
And then
So
you
I keep
restring it and you
intentionally-
don't.
Well, then I just keep not going to restring it, because if I
Oh.
restring it, I have to do something about this fret. And again, so we do the middle voice too. Right? And these are all with F inversions in the second one. And then we go all with G inversions. Right? So same deal, we're just going to use G chords.
Okay. And that was when
Which
you're
is
just
what
using the
this-
same shapes, but in different, like in the just starting on a different one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, these would be your C shapes, right?
Yeah.
Then you get F shapes. So we start on root position and F.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
G, say a second inversion.
Well, that one was weird.
All right. So how are we going for time? 51. Okay. So, what I would like you guys to do with this is read through all of these exercises, give them a good red hot go. But what you want to eventually do with this is turn it into improvisation exercise, right? You can create interesting kind of little melodies where you say, I'm going to focus on making a top line melody. Right? And the idea is that once you practice these a few times, you'll start having an idea of where your 1, 4, and 5 chords are, and what notes in the melody they're going to relate to. Alright? One of the interesting things about practicing this stuff as an improvisation exercise is that as you're playing around, as soon as you hear that note, you're like, oh, it's a G chord. It has to be a G chord. Right? So you just use this kind of thing as a scaffold. It's a good reading exercise for you all to kind of just practice some reading. But anytime you do anything, you should try to turn it into something that you can be creative with. And as you wander with this melody, you'll sit on a note and it'll be like, well, I don't want to be on the chord I'm on anymore. So then it'll probably be a 4 or 5 chord that you're after. There are, of course, lots of other chords in the key, but you can harmonize an entire scale with just 1, 4, and 5. And using enough theory knowledge, you can kind of argue that things that get more complicated are actually just 1, 4, and 5s, but with substitutions in them. Because like the 2 chord is kind of like the 4 chord, and the 7 chord is like the 5 chord.
Sorry.
So, other than that, for the test, like the simple answer is going to be what we have looked on in class will be in the test. Alright, so you will be expected to know, especially your triads. I don't know yet if I'm going to ask any questions about pentatonics or modes, because although we have touched on them a bit this semester generally, hasn't been the main focus. So triads would be the best thing to focus in on. Your extensions on those triads. It's quite likely I'm going to write out some kind of quick chord progression and get you to play them with some extensions. There will be a bit of sight reading. It will probably be based off something like this. I imagine what I might do is do a simple melody where you're expected to drop in an inversion every now and then.
Okay.
All right. What else? Oh, there will be some kind of probably improvisational component in the sense that a lot of what we've talked about here has been using these concepts to start developing melodies. You don't have to be Joe Pass, like it's really just about whether or not you can present these ideas, whether or not you can show me that you've understood what we've been doing and turn it into something that's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure lesson 3, somewhere around that, was where we talked a lot about examples of how you can kind of create melodic lines out of chord tones, which I think both of you guys missed. I don't know. It was the one where we were looking at the nearness view, and we're talking about how to structure, the first 5 changes at least in.
Yeah, there's no way.
Yes.
That
so
I was there.
If there's anything that you feel like you've missed out on, if you haven't seen, or
I mean, we were talking about. I think we were gonna meet up at some point.
Yeah, man. Just give me a text. Tell me when you're available. We'll sort something out.
Sounds good.
Super happy to do that.
I mean, my own guitar lessons I can't even fucking sort out at the moment because I'm still working. I'm at Bunnings.
Right. Yeah.
And they're like calling me in for I had 2 10-hour shifts on the weekend, and I was like, holy shit, yeah. So that's why I'm just a bit trying to plan everything out. So yeah, because I just never know when they're gonna call me in recently, but I'll see what I can do.
So is there anything that anyone out of all of that is already sketchy on? Does everyone have all the sheets? Because you should have all the sheets from.
Yeah, you definitely sent me all the sheets.
Did we have a Dropbox? Was that a thing or?
There is a Dropbox. To be honest, I haven't updated it in a little while.
No, that's okay. I think I might have missed a few sheets. I think
Lesson 1 was just the first set of extensions with 6s and 9s.
Yeah.
Lesson 2 was then getting funkier extensions, sharp 9, flat 9 kind of things.
I was there for lesson 2.
Lesson 3 was talking about the nearness of you using, I think, finding paths through that using inversions, so different ways that you could express that.
Yeah.
And how to use your extensions to kind of turn that into something that's a little cooler. Lesson 3, sorry, was about using the melody of nearness and turning those inversions of things into something that's melodic.
I think that might be the one I missed.
Sorry, I'm in serious jam mood at the moment.
I might have missed.
Lesson 4 was chord progressions.
Yeah.
So
Got that. Yeah.
one of the things that I'll probably ask you to do in the test is identify one of those chord progressions by ear. That's another thing that we'll probably do. Fortunately, they're all really distinctive, so if you play with them a couple of times, you should be able to go, okay, yeah, I know what this one sounds like. And lesson 5 was today. So lesson 5 was just the sight reading exercise and a bit of chat and catch up to where we're at now. All right. If you need any help, send me a text or an email or something. I'm more than happy to chat you through it. Or meet up and have a little video chat, do a half hour, an hour or something on anything you feel super sketchy about. I'm not going to, it's not going to be crazy difficult in terms of being a really harsh marker. I'm certainly going to be less lenient than I was for the first semester.
Yeah. That's fair.
So it's going to be essentially just a basic demonstrate your understandings of the things we've discussed in these 5 lessons.
Yep.
And it's only it's 5 hours of material, so it's not a huge amount of material, especially when it's spread out over 10 weeks a course, 15 weeks a course, something like that. Cool. So hit me up with anything you feel odd about. More than happy to give you extra chats or any extra help you need. But other than that, just practice mostly your inversion stuff and the extension stuff. Anything that's been in these 5 lessons. Alrighty, guys. So we are at 11:56. We could probably cap it off there.
Yeah.
Have fun with group 5.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see what it's like.
All right.
Alrighty, guys.
Right, laters.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one.
You too.
I'll send out a thing about the exams later on too, in
Alright.
some more detail.
No worries.
See you, mate.